how do you feel about where the NBA is right now? Because it's in an interesting space to me. The finals did well despite it being
No, I didn't look at the numbers. How were the viewership was
yeah,
okay?
they did well. They did
Okay.
well. It was two, obviously two really small
Small market
markets.
teams, yeah.
And we haven't had a repeat champion in 7 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we're coming to the ends of an era. LeBron
Yes.
is probably in his last year. Chris Paul just said that he
Mhm.
is retiring after this year.
Mm-hmm.
Steph is still, Steph, but he's getting up there as well.
KD.
KD. So, it's the young boys' time.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting space. And it's interesting that you brought up villains because I don't think there's any villains.
No.
And I think Ant is like maybe the closest to that. And he's
a
not
different kind of villain.
He's not really.
Yeah.
The physicality is kind of coming back in the game. So I think that at least for this
Playoffs it was.
this playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think, because when I think of your era of basketball, it was not as insane as like the 90s where they're just like throwing elbows down the lane.
There was definitely some physicality, yeah.
But it was a healthy physicality and there were real rivalries. Do you think we ever get back to that? And how do you think it affects the game if we don't?
Well, I think, it kind of started off how I spoke earlier is that the league is so young now. I remember when I came in the league in 02, there was 38, 39, 40-year-olds smoking cigarettes in the locker room. Whether they played or not, it didn't matter. They were bridges.
They were not smoking cigarettes in the locker room.
Some of these body was smoking cigarettes in the locker room. But these older dudes were, they were OGs. They were helping us, avoid the wrong kind of women, helping us get our first suits, helping us understand the game, with women to stay away from. They were just like real OGs. The game doesn't have that no more. The game is so young now that a lot of this league is based off potential, and I feel like the fact that similar to the women's game, there's no storylines for any of these guys really. There's no rivalry for any of these guys coming into one because they bounce around too much. Another reason is they're not going to college that long, and then another reason is there's again an influx of European players. So we don't really know. And I feel like I'm obviously a basketball head, and there's times even in the finals or in the playoffs, I'm like, yo, who is that? He's killing. And it's just like I played in the league for 15 years, and I still don't know some of these guys. So I can only imagine like more of a casual fan just not really grasping the drama, grasping the storylines, or kind of really knowing who is who. It's funny, I was sitting at Amazon last week and we were talking about just this. It's just like, how can they get behind the scenes and start to kind of really peel the layers back of some of these players? Obviously, we get some sort of sense of who these young players are on Instagram, but I think bringing an old school show like Inside the NBA, was that with Ahmad Rashad back in the day? What was that? Inside Stuff? A newer version of being able to understand who these young players are so people can start rooting for them and understanding them a little bit. But I think to your point, we are at a passing of the guard. I think we saw it in this playoffs. All these young teams handed these older guys, an early vacation slip, and two young teams played in the finals, and Shea had one of the best years of, that a guard's had in the game. So I don't know if I don't think there's a clear-cut face. I think it was MJ for, Magic and Bird, and then it was MJ, and then it was Kobe and Shaq, and Bronze carried the torch. I don't know if there's an American player you can really hang your hat on right now. I think there's a ton of young, talented players overall, whether it be a Shea or Jokic or Embiid Giannis and Tatum and Booker. But I don't think there's a clear-cut like, hey, I don't think there's a clear cut like, hey, this is my league right now. So it's going to be interesting kind of just this next 2 or 3 years to see if there's any rivalries that can come about or anybody that kind of steals that crown as kind of like the next guy to carry the torch.
Yeah, I think it's hard when you don't have any, meat. It's like all the marrow's been taken out of the bone, And part of it I think is also social media. Because when you get one good cooking on social media, you don't really want to deal with it again unless you're truly built for that. And, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And if, part of stepping out and showing people who you are and being, authentic and open could lead you to being in that space. And then, is it worth it to try and lose sponsorships, like the amount of money that these guys are making. It's like, man, no, let somebody else be the villain. Why do I got to be the one that gets cooked and
Yeah, no, it's
made fun of? And
it's a different world. Like, not to cut you off, like I've caught, like, social media kind of started popping 11, 12, 13-ish. And I came in the league in 02, you know what I mean? So I kind of caught the tail end of it, but I couldn't imagine like having kids in this space and then seeing what, Kevin Durant, how he responds to trolls and how other people, it's a lot.
I mean, look at like
It's a lot.
Ja and Zion, like
It's a lot.
these guys must be looking at this like, ain't no way. I'm gonna mind my business, make this money.
And mental health is important too, because everyone said, oh, you make so much money, turn the other cheek or ignore it. But it's hard when people are just constantly attacking you, whether they're right or wrong. It's just when a lot of people are doing anything toward you, like turn the other, that shit don't work. Like, I remember asking Kobe, is there one critique that stood out or disrespect? And he literally said, like, I heard all of it and it all hurt. That's Kobe. So, I mean, the rest of us don't stand a chance. That's one of the most mentally tough motherfuckers that ever played the game. So that stuff is hard to do. And, I credit, these guys for being able to handle it because, obviously a lot of money comes with this life and job, but we're still normal people. We just, we get paid a crazy amount of money for our profession, but we're still human at the end of the day. And we go through ups and downs and breakups and kids and sick and all kinds of other shit, but they expect because we make so much money or they make so much money that they're supposed to be superhuman, and they're not. So
yeah, I've never looked at it that, maybe because of my brother. I don't really look at it that way, but I also am just like a pull up type of person. I know you are. So I just assume that I'm gonna see the person that I'm talking about, and I better be able to say exactly what I said before
or
when
fight.
I see this person, or fight. So, to me, it's like that is just a mentality, and that doesn't exist on the internet. So I do not blame any of these guys. I don't blame any celebrity, anyone for trying to avoid that and just make money. Because like, fuck all that.
Yeah.
Fuck all that. You don't have to deal with that if you don't want to, because it's a miserable experience.
Mm-hmm.
But then the authentic stuff is hard to get to, and you gotta have that unless you are just a naturally polarizing person. So that's the thing that's so interesting to me about LeBron, because LeBron is not actually a villain at all. Mm-mm. He's just a naturally polarizing figure, and it's so fascinating. He doesn't have scandals. He takes care of his people. His family, his businesses. He's represented the league. He's been in the spotlight since he was 16 years old, came up in the social media era. Like, it is incredible to me how polarizing he is.
Yeah. Incredible. Special. I mean, to think a superstar in his caliber, that with everything you've listed, like we can't name.
I think he's the greatest superstar in the history of entertainment.
I think he's carried the torch better than anyone could ever imagine, to be able to live up to the hype and exceed expectation and do it on a clean path. And like you said, I mean, sports is synonymous with scandal. You know what I mean? And
he's never crashed out once.
Not one. And what you're going into year 22 or 23, but this kid's been a star since 15 years old. Like, we don't hear shit but good things about him. And I think even with that said, that's going to make some people dislike him and try to make him a villain, because like, I know this motherfucker ain't perfect. I know he's doing, but I mean, he's been a model citizen, and I wouldn't disagree with you. I think he's been the greatest superstar we've ever seen.